The Bye-Bye Man, a new horror movie directed by Stacy Title, based on a story by her husband, Jonathan Penner, who also has a role in the movie. I didn't actually take the time to sit and write out a review of this movie, and the reason I didn't is because it is so horribly bad that it actually doesn't deserve the time for me to do that. This is a very convoluted, strange, confusing story that doesn't really go anywhere because it leaves you confused almost with almost every scene in the first act, so that by the time things start rolling, you're so lost and upset at being lost that the rest of it just sort of plays out with cliche after cliche, couple jump scares, couple, attempts to be frightening. If you've ever watched sitcoms and been amazed at how a story can play out for half an hour that really should have been resolved in about 5 minutes if the characters had just talked to each other, rather than, the whole show is just based on some misunderstanding or some confusion, well, that is basically how this thing plays out, because there are about 10 opportunities where weird things start happening to these three college students who buy this house or are renting this house, and they get into this place and strange stuff starts happening. You go, okay, fine, strange stuff starts happening. It's a horror movie. That's what's supposed to happen. But they never talk to each other. The editing in this movie is so awful. There's a scene and there's this strange thing that happens, and then the characters just sit there and look at each other, cut. Then the next scene is the next morning, as though, just they didn't talk about it at all. And then they have another spooky weird thing happen. Slam, cut. There's no discussion, there's no communication. And I just don't think people really act that way in real life. If something spooky and weird happened to me here in my apartment, you can bet I'd be telling my girlfriend all about it. And if something spooky happened with her, she'd be telling me all about it, and we'd then figure out what the hell is going on. These guys just stand there and with their mouths open and then go on as though, okay, well, that's just normal. Spooky stuff is supposed to happen here. And this happens over and over and over again. And this is the setup for the movie. And with the bad guy, the evil force, the horrible thing that they're dealing with is this Bye-Bye Man, whose name you're not supposed to say, you're not supposed to think, because if you do, every time you get into this, it comes closer, it gets closer to you, and apparently, I think the idea, I'm telling you, this is very convoluted stuff, but I think the idea is that if it, gets close enough to touch you or something, then somehow you will be, touched by evil and you will do evil things. And this is, the basic premise is this creature and his CGI dog, this red dog-like thing that is, I really has no explanation whatsoever. These things are supposed to be the genesis or root of all evil. And so, everything, when people, go postal or go crazy or shoot up a place or something, it's because of this guy, I guess. But the premise is so bizarre, and the way that you would find out about this Bye-Bye Man, whose name is, like he who must not be thought of or said, is so strange that it doesn't really work for all the evil that goes on in the world. The backstory I think that there was an idea when they were shooting this movie, or when Jonathan Penner wrote this movie, I think he had an idea that somehow was connected to a train and to this strange tall man who was this evil guy, the Bye-Bye Man, and his, like I said, his red CGI dog. Somehow this is connected to a train. These connections never are explained. There's just this strange imagery with these iconic things, the train and the train tracks, and at one point one of the characters sees the Bye-Bye Man and his dog on his cell phone. He's having this fugue where he is observing this thing on his phone in the middle of class. where they're standing on a train. And you're like, okay. So somehow you think that this is going to go somewhere where there's going to be a train and there's going to be some resolution and some explanation for what this is all about. No, there's not even an attempt at an explanation for any of this. So you don't know what this thing really is, where it comes from, this Bye-Bye Man, or what even its motivations are, except to sort of grin ghoulishly and sort of touch people on the forehead, and then they go crazy. Okay, there are two actors who make appearances in this movie, and I don't know how they got dragged into this thing. One of them is Carrie Ann Moss from the Matrix series. She plays this police officer who comes to investigate the death of one of the teens. And then out of nowhere, the main character is trying to figure out what's going on, and he runs to this this strange old house where Faye Dunaway lives. Rather classic actress. She's not looking so good these days, to be honest with you, but she's in this scene. The scene doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. He's trying to make sense of what's going on, and somehow has some kind of an epiphany of some sort and goes running out of there, but it's just more confusion and more, strange convolutions. So, bottom line, this is probably not only the worst movie of this year so far, this movie is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It is really bad, very derivative. It's very confused, trying to take and just flat out taking elements from other horror genre, other horror movies, and just throwing them in with an obvious, just painfully obvious effort to start a new franchise. And I really hope that this is the end of this franchise. I do not want to see more Bye-Bye Men. So I cannot at all say that this is a movie you should see. This movie gets a rating of total suckage. Thank you very much for watching, and leave any comments, feedback you have about this movie below. I'd love to, in the comments section, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Bye-bye.